What is a sinking fund? Going off the name alone, it probably sounds like a bad thing, like a money pit or something. But a sinking fund is actually a good thing, and it's an important part of budgeting. In this Sinking Funds Explained video, we answer all your questions about what a sinking fund is, why you need one, and how to set one up, as well as common sinking fund categories. Let's see how sinking funds can help you.
Sinking funds help you reach goals, financial and otherwise. A sinking fund is just money that you save for a specific purpose or an irregular expense. It sounds like an emergency fund, but it isn't. That is for emergencies. A sinking fund is for something you know is coming, but doesn't happen every month. Saving money every month for a car is a great example of a sinking fund. Why do you need a sinking fund? Isn't your savings account enough? In our video about things to do with your paycheck each month, we talk about how your checking account isn't the final destination for your money. It's just the beginning. Your savings account shouldn't necessarily be the endpoint of your savings either. Sinking funds help you reach your goals by giving you more places to put the money you're saving.
Yep, and they make it easier to tie your savings to specific things. We've used them for some time to focus our savings. When we first started learning how to live on a budget, we thought through the various things that we spend money on that weren't regular, like weekly expenses like groceries, gas, rent, utilities. And we thought about the irregular but expected expenses that we had come up each year. And we created sinking fund categories to start saving money for them.
Yep, remember that cash envelope that we started with when we were first married? Today we handle much of our sinking funds through online bank transfers. But when we first started, we used an envelope. Inside this envelope, we would have categories for car repair, Christmas, birthdays, holidays, memberships, home repairs, and car registration. Today, we have separate savings accounts for these expenses, but this is literally what we started with. And if you're learning about budgeting for beginners, this is a great early step for you to take with your own finances. After you allocate money for your regular monthly expenses, figure out how much you need and can set aside each month for your sinking fund categories. Then pull out that money each month after you get paid and put the appropriate amount in the slot in your money envelope or your savings account. When those expenses come up, you'll have the money you need to pay for them. This is so much better than not setting up sinking funds and just putting that expense on a credit card.
For sure, John, but what about larger savings goals, like saving for a new car or a down payment on your house? Maybe you don't want to have that much cash sitting around. Or even better, maybe you want to try and earn a little interest on your larger sinking funds. We did this with our car and house. We created accounts at CIT Bank, which is an online bank, and we set up transfers from our checking account into them each month after our paychecks were deposited into our checking account. We hate having a car payment. So after we paid off our first vehicle and we began saving for a second one, we put the amount that we had been spending on our car payment, which was about $300 a month, into our savings account until we had enough to buy a new-to-us car in cash. We didn't have to remember to pull out that money, and it came out before we could spend it on something that we hadn't budgeted for.
Yeah, and while savings account interest rates remain terribly low right now, something is still better than nothing. Plus, I always like checking account balances every month or two to see them grow. It's really encouraging and it helps you keep going until you reach that specific goal. Now let's talk about how to set up your sinking funds. We've actually already touched on it. You can either use envelopes labeled with your sinking fund categories, or you can open savings accounts at your bank or online bank like CIT Bank and title them with your sinking fund categories. If you're using envelopes and cash, make sure to go to the bank and withdraw the appropriate amount of cash every month or payday, and then put that cash into your envelopes. Or set up transfers to automatically move money from your checking account to the appropriate savings account each month. Everyone's situation is different, so do what works for you.
Thanks, John. That's such a good reminder, and it's really true. Let's talk about a few things that sinking funds aren't, and how they're different from your regular savings and from an emergency fund. Sinking funds are an account you save money in specifically to be spent. Once you have the amount you need, you withdraw it and spend it. Your standard savings is different. It's one of the places that you accumulate money and build wealth for the future. This isn't money you plan to spend, but rather money you're saving and hopefully investing as well.
Yeah, now let's talk about the difference between an emergency fund and a sinking fund. An emergency fund is money you've saved for unplanned expenses. Now you want to start with $1,000 to begin with and work your way up to 3 months of living expenses and then 6 and then keep going after that. As we shared in our How to Start an Emergency Fund video, we have worked our way up to 6 months of living expenses saved and are working our way towards 9 months. And for our mortgage savings, we have 10 months saved and are working toward 12.
Hold up a second, John. If you're thinking, that's crazy, there's no way I will ever be able to save that much, or you wonder why anyone would need to save that much in the first place, let me just encourage you that we did not get here overnight. Building our emergency fund is something we've been working on for years. And the reason we're saving that much money is because anything can happen, especially since we run our own business. We saw it last year, and we see it now with the job loss created by the pandemic. So many people are out of work and out of unemployment insurance. They're struggling to get by, and most people have exhausted whatever savings they had. The purpose of saving up living expenses and mortgage or rent for 10 to 12 months is that you will have the money you need to survive while you're looking for work, or recovering from a car accident, or whatever emergency puts you in a position to need that money that you've saved.
Yeah, your emergency fund is money you save that you hope you never have to use, but is there if you do. Sinking funds are savings accounts you are planning to use as soon as you reach your goal or your specific bill becomes due. They are not emergencies, but rather things you know you will need to spend money on at a certain point. Take the holidays, for example. We budget a set amount of money each month to give gifts to our family and children at Christmas. We figure out how much we spend on each person, total it up, and then divide the amount into 12 equal parts. Every month, that amount gets set aside so that we have the money we need to buy gifts without going into debt.
Yep, and another example is our zoo membership. We have an awesome zoo here in Omaha. Memberships are pretty affordable. At $150 per year, our entire family can go as often as we like. We have a few other things like that, including Amazon Prime, that we know we want to buy each year. We split that amount into 12 equal parts, and we transfer it into our membership sinking fund each month.
Now, those are some of our sinking fund categories, but yours will be totally different. That is the personal part of personal finance. Your sinking fund categories need to fit your needs and goals.
Yep, and that's the beauty of budgeting too. You have the power to personalize it to your lifestyle and purposes. Still, if you're wondering where to start, there are a few common sinking fund categories. Those include house, car, Christmas, vacation, subscriptions, and school. Within these categories, you can save money for more specific needs. Your house sinking fund can include money for house repairs or a down payment or both. Same with a car sinking fund. You can save up to buy a car or for car insurance. If you have kids or if you're a student yourself, you can save money for back to school expenses like supplies, clothes, books, sports, and other items you know you're going to have to buy to prepare for school each year.
That's terrific, Nicole. But there's one more sinking fund category we should cover: medical expenses. If you can, set up a health savings account through your employer or through a local bank or credit union, as these can be a great way to save up money to spend on prescription and over-the-counter medicine, copays, and other medical expenses. We have one set up through a local credit union and contribute the max amount each year, which for 2021 is $7,200 for a family. And if you're an individual, that amount is $3,600. If you can't find somewhere to set up an HSA, create a savings account specifically for your medical expenses. Now, you won't get the same tax breaks that come with an HSA, but you will have money set aside for your medical expenses, and that's what truly matters.
All right, that's it for now. What questions do you have about sinking funds, emergency funds, or saving money? Let us know in the comments below, or stay tuned right here to watch our next video on saving, budgeting, and growing your wealth.
Yep, and if you haven't already, help us with that YouTube algorithm and smash the red subscribe button so you can be notified of our new content. and we'll see you in our next video.